Oh, hey, how come no Duelyst? I will probably be streaming Duelyst next week because there's a new expansion coming out on Thursday. I've switched over to Hearthstone partly just to mix it up, have some fun, and check out Hearthstone's new expansion, which came out about a week and a half ago now. So I think just as a lot of people are worrying about the Steam chart numbers on Duelyst, I think the game's doing okay. Like, I haven't seen any drop in matchmaking times, I don't think. I've not struggled to find opponents or anything like that. The Reddit community is still active. I think it's mostly fine. The Steam is always going to see a big, especially with free-to-play games, there's always going to be a big surge and then a drop-off as people check out the game when it comes out because it comes up on the recommended or whatever. And then they're like, oh, this isn't for me, or oh, I don't have time to fit this into my life, and it tails off. The fact that it competes with Hearthstone is somewhat unfortunate, because although it's it's probably a better game than Hearthstone by most measures, it's not as aesthetically appealing offhand unless you really like pixel art, which I do. I mean, Duelyst has amazing art, but it doesn't have that same kind of feel of, like Hearthstone is that like it's like a clunky wooden box, which is quite satisfying. And I think that draws a lot of people in. So it doesn't necessarily have the sticking power for like more casual players. If you're a more kind of intense gamer, I would recommend Duelyst over Hearthstone every time. And I think that's probably what the fan base is mostly comprised of. But the more hardcore following, it tends to be a smaller community. So there'll be a bit of a drop off and it sort of stabilize at a lower number after the initial surge in interest. I suspect we'll see the same thing happen when they finally get around to making the mobile version, where there'll be people going, oh man, I can play this on my phone, this is sweet, and then they might not necessarily stick with it. Not everyone who buys in initially will actually roll with it. So I think that's okay. I think that's mostly a false alarm. Certainly, I hope the game is doing well. I really want Counterplay to succeed and survive. Has Eternal actually come out? Like, I've played Eternal. I wasn't that impressed with it. I thought it had some great ideas, but there wasn't that much about it that made me not wish I was just playing Magic. I get it's prettier than Magic Online, but it kind of feels a bit slow. There's quite a few competitors out there generally now. There's Shadowverse, Hex, if that's still around. Kibler's Company's game. I'm not sure what happened to that, but I assume that's still in production, and Eternal. I should try Eternal again, actually, now that it's been properly released. I might draw the Magic Crown and be a tough opponent for Duelyst because of that. That's a pretty good point. I think the die-hard Magic players are all playing Magic Online, or, Magic. It's an open beta, okay. Yes, I got a closed beta invite from a friend a while back. I'll have to have another look. Maybe I'll stream it. Maybe at some point next year, early next year, because I'm going to be excited about this upcoming Duelyst expansion. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I think Duelyst is okay. I certainly hope it is. There's been no obvious sign of it slowing down, and Counterplay are improving the game the whole time. The tournament scene is spinning up. So hopefully all will be well. I think they definitely have a couple of good niches that the game occupies. Like, it has the board, which no other game has yet. That's a big deal. It has a different art style. It has pixel art, so if you like pixel art, it's in there. It has a bit more of that like nostalgic thing. I don't know if you've noticed, but some of the arts are like references to, or at least very reminiscent of old, like fighting game things. Stream Holiday Cube. If I'd thought of that ahead of time, I didn't realize it was up. I will do that. I would do that. Maybe I'll stream one like halfway through the week or something. Do an extra stream. That sounds like a laugh. I'm just going to pull up this new bit of pixel art that Duelyst has come out with that I'm really enamored with. That reminds me of Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Let me just find it. Look at this thing. That's stunning. It's absolutely gorgeous, isn't it? Like, you don't get that in other games. CPU opponent during my train commies. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, Duelyst's AIs are like not great. But the game is, I think the game is really hard just generally to write AIs for, but also it's quite difficult as a game. That's what's fun about it. I should probably finish this draft, but this is quite an interesting conversation. How many mechs have we got?